that leaders, whether in families, workplaces, or communities, must lead. Must. It's not like a request. They must lead by example and act with integrity. So we shouldn't be foxes in sheep clothing, where when you're given a position, no matter how irrelevant it might be, just, I think, act on it with honesty and diligence. Because if you're given small and you cannot do good, I don't think you'll be given big, I don't think. So when you're diligent in that small space, you never know what tomorrow brings. We have delved into the book of Nehemiah for a couple of Sundays now during our Bible study. And to be honest, it's a book that I had skimmed over before without even giving it much thought. But this time, something has shifted in me. Something has really been kind of activated in me. Nehemiah's story isn't just about it isn't just a tale of like rebuilding walls and all that. It's a masterclass in leadership, resilience, and maybe faith, And one thing, it struck me that good leadership is foundational, not just for organizations or nations, but for families, communities, and even our own lives. So as during the Bible study, as we unpacked Nehemiah's journey, I couldn't stop reflecting on how his example really provides timeless principles for leadership. And it's not just about leading others, it's about leading yourself with integrity and faith. So that's what makes the story of Nehemiah so powerful. It's relatable and actionable. Even thousands of years later, we still find it to be really contemporary. It's something that really resonates with our today's world. Learning from all this, let's take a closer look at Nehemiah and lessons that we can draw from his story. As you know, our podcast is always a learning podcast, and we're trying to become better. So don't forget to subscribe there. And along with insights from other parts of scripture. So, and because this is actually not a sermon, rather it's just a learning opportunity brought to you by the SelfSeed podcast, I believe that these lessons are just relevant in today's world as they were in ancient world, in ancient Jerusalem. The first lesson that I got from the book of Nehemiah, and I've constantly seen this over and over from chapters to chapters, is vision and purpose. When Nehemiah hears about the state of, the interesting part is that when Nehemiah hears about the state of Jerusalem's broken walls, he just doesn't shrug it off and all that. He weeps, prays, and seeks God's guidance. But he even doesn't stop there. He acts, that's the unique part. He acts. He approaches the king of Persia at that time with a clear vision of what needs to be done and the resources required to achieve it. Like he had a master plan and all that. So what am I learning from this is that great leaders begin with a sense of purpose. Nehemiah knew that clarity fueled his actions. In today's world, whether you are leading a team at work or your family at home, or even just trying to lead yourself through maybe a challenging season, I personally believe that having a clear sense of purpose is very, very, very important. I mean, that those varies, we have many, many varies, but it's very, very important. So you have to set a clear purpose, a clear master plan of what you really want in your leadership and all that. And the second lesson is humility and service. Even as a governor, Nehemiah chose not to really demand extravagant privileges. Instead, he just worked alongside the people, even rebuking those who were exploiting others. Like in chapter 7, he's telling the elders. So Nehemiah just embodied that servant leadership, the kind that Jesus talks about in like Mark 10, maybe 43 to 45. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. If you want to become the top, you first must learn the basics. You must be at the basics. And Nehemiah shows us that leadership is not about lording over others, but serving them. You have to serve, because even Jesus said, I did not come to, lead. I came to be a servant. So in today's world where so many leaders fall into the trap of seeking power or status, Nehemiah's humility, can act as a refreshing reminder of what true leadership should be in our society. And this takes me to the third lesson. Third lesson from Nehemiah is resilience in the face of opposition, my man. Nehemiah faced constant opposition. I mean, from ridicule to outright threats, like to come meet us or we'll do this and all that. But he didn't let that stop him. He actually armed the workers, prayed fervently, and kept the team focused on, on the mission that brought them to the homeland. So I just think it's good for us to remember that leadership often comes with challenges and critics. So whether you're working on a project at work or a personal goal, there will always be obstacles. I mean, I'm talking and I believe that you can also resonate. But Nehemiah's story reminds us to stay resilient, to keep our eyes on what? On the prize, on the goal, and just trust in God's strength. And the other thing that I learned from Nehemiah is, I think, accountability and integrity. Now, when complaints arose that some officials were exploiting the people by charging interest, right? Nehemiah didn't just sweep it under the rug again as in the beginning when he heard about Jerusalem, or ask maybe for his cut, like how some people would do today when given a position at a high table. He addressed the issue head on, holding the leaders accountable, who, by the way, were regarded as noble in the community. They were seen as, those figures and all that, and ensuring justice was served. So in Timothy, I think it is 1 Timothy chapter 3, 1-7, Paul lays out the qualities of a good leader, emphasizing on integrity, self-control, and a good reputation, which means Nehemiah lived out these principles, right? And this brings me to the realization that it gives me the confidence and pride to say that I believe and say this like on the mic right now, that leaders, whether in families, workplaces, or communities, must lead. Must. It's not like a request. They must lead by example and act with integrity. So we shouldn't be foxes in sheep clothing, where when you're given a position, no matter how irrelevant it might be, just, I think, act on it with honesty and diligence. Because if you're given small and you cannot do good, I don't think you'll be given big, I don't think. So when you're diligent in that small space, you never know what tomorrow brings. And then this reminds me of the lesson number 5, which is the faith as the foundation. Above all, Nehemiah was a man of prayer, man. Before taking any action, he sought God's guidance. When faced with opposition, he prayed. When celebrating victories, he gave thanks. So his leadership was actually rooted in just faith, and this just made all the difference. Like in Proverbs 9:10, I think it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." So, which in simple terms, in layman terms, it just means that true leadership starts with a heart aligned with God's will. So I just want you to discover what God's will for your life is and play that role to the fullest. I mean, even if it's not the tacky sport that you initially thought of, but then we should acknowledge him whenever possible. We should play that role very good. Don't just let the noises of the world confuse you, my man. All right? I think that's very important. It doesn't matter the role is big, is what we thought of. We should just leave it perpendicularly. Play that role perpendicularly. Now, this Nehemiah's book brought me back to a story. Let me make it a little bit personal with you so that you're able to think. A while back, around 2020, I was a volunteering assistant at the School of International Education in my university. And I was in charge of student affairs and all things that, connected students with the faculty of the college. I was actually a fresh face placed in that spot, because I say this because I just came I just joined the college, the university around 2019, and then there were people who had been there for 2 or more years, and so that came with some tricky challenges. For instance, one challenge was advocating for students to the faculty who, on a greater view, were just looking at the matters after the interests of the college, And then the other challenge was associating with fellow students, fellow friends who they called friends. We called friends, we assume they are friends, whom in my absence, some would just say that I'm against them and only promoting the agenda of my overseers, the people in the office and all that. I'll admit, actually, I just wanted to quit after all this. I just wanted to quit halfway through because I couldn't bear the thought of trying to play, my role diligently and people saying the opposite. And I even remember I asked one of my seniors and I just told him, I can't do this. I even told one of the teachers. But then I remember that leaders like Nehemiah, he didn't have an ideal circumstances either. He had opposition and he was even a late returnee to the, homeland. Yet he succeeded because he stayed faithful, resilient, and focused just on the goal. So after being inspired by that, I also decided to just lead by example and just do my part, fulfill my duties, live rightly, like just do what is right, or my duties of service, especially during COVID, and trust, just the whole process, knowing that God, if you gave me this, I trust in you. Well, and guess what? I served the spot for the next maybe 3 years, until my graduation. And some of those who initially said some things against me behind my back, they became my friends. And it wasn't that perfect, but it taught me the importance of perseverance and faith in leadership. Here's the little thing I realized about leadership. It's not reserved for CEOs or public figures, my man. My dear listener, it's not like reserved for someone special and all that. Leadership happens every day in how we show up for our families, how we treat our co-workers, how we manage our responsibilities, and how we just respond to the challenges around us. So if you want to grow as a leader, here are a few practical steps that I love practicing throughout my journey to becoming a great leader of my time. God willing, yeah. The first thing I would say is start with prayer. Before you make decisions or take action, try to seek God's guidance. I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but I can attest to this. Seek God's guidance, just like Nehemiah. Just let's make the prayer our foundation. If you're able to do that, then it comes with a certain clarity, as to which step to take, whom to look for. Assistance will just come your way. And then the second thing is lead by serving. Think of ways that you can serve the people around you, my friends, my family, people, my church, which I belong to, my community, whether it's helping just a co-worker, mentoring someone, or simply listening to those in need. Think of a way that you can, help another person, serve another person, and learn about being of service. And then stay resilient. When challenges arise, don't just give up. Just remember Nehemiah's persistence and keep moving forward, even if the progress will feel like very, very, very slow. I think the fourth thing I can say is live with integrity, bro. Be kind. Be the kind of leader whose action match their words. People follow those they trust. And actually, this is even written with bold letters in some leadership book. People follow those whom they trust. So would you create that trust or would you ruin it? And then the last thing is embrace your purpose. Take time to just reflect on your why, whether it's in your career, relationships, or personal goals. Because if you have a clear purpose, it will guide your decisions and keep you motivated all the way. This episode is not, it's not too long to tire you, to bore you and all that. And if you're listening, wherever platform, don't remember to let me know what you think about leadership. Nehemiah's story isn't just for a historical account. It's actually a blueprint for leadership. It's a reminder that leadership is about serving others, staying faithful, and working with purpose. So whether you're rebuilding walls like Nehemiah, or raising a family, or navigating your own challenges, I just believe that you have a potential to lead with courage, humility, and faith. We're all called to be leaders in some aspect with respect to, the environment that you are in. So this week, I don't know when you are listening, or you are listening, or you would listen to this podcast, but I just challenge you to reflect on where you're being called to lead. It could be in your workplace, your community, or even in your personal growth. Whatever it is, remember the lessons of Nehemiah. I know probably if you didn't read that book, I just gave you like an insight of how Nehemiah was. And trust that with God's guidance, you have everything you need to succeed, bro. You have everything you need to succeed. So until next time, keep planting those seeds of faith, resilience, and furthermore of leadership, because you never know when they will bloom. And don't forget to, hit that subscribe button. And if not the subscribe, just let me know what you think of what you thought about this episode. Until next time, keep being resilient and be a good leader.